welcome to Phonology, a program where we present a project and the quick and easy steps on how you can do it at home. Today we're going to be making an art project using a layering technique and using different mediums. I'm going to be using pastels and paints, but as I'll discuss, you can use different mediums that you might have around the house. So let's get started. Okay, so the supplies that we'll need today are going to be a newspaper or an old tablecloth. I'm going to be using this to keep my surface clean because when you work with pastels, it can get really messy. You're going to need a blank piece of paper. You can choose any color. I'm choosing white. You're going to need a paintbrush, some paint. I'm choosing black paint, but you can use any color that you'd like. I'm using black because it's darker and it's going to cover a lot of the surface. You'll see why later on. But on some of the projects, I also used white. So you might want to choose a neutral if you're choosing a lot of bright colors because it'll make the picture that you're making really stand out. I'm also going to be using some pastels. If you don't have pastels, you can use chalk, you can use crayons, you can use colored pencils, you can even try markers. Just get creative with it. I have a bowl to hold my paint, and I have some Scotch tape. And that's pretty much it for this project. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start creating our image. So I've chosen some colors in pastels, and I'm going to block out colors. So I'm going to color in and make sure I color in really well. And I'm trying to cover up all the white spaces I have left behind. So like this. You can always shake off the excess if you're using chalk or if you're using dry pastels. Oil pastels are a little bit different, and you may not need to shake off the excess, but if you're using pastels, you're also going to want to blend so that you're really getting the color saturated in your page. So I have one prepared that I've already started working on. Now you don't have to make the rainbow design if you don't want to. You can do whatever you like, but I've just chosen that for this one. So I'm going to color in my last section with this lavender color, and I'm going to blend it so that I make sure all the colors saturated in really well. Now if you wanted lighter colors, you could blend extra, or you could blend in white to make like a pastel color, or if you wanted to keep the deep colors as they are, you could do it just like this. So next we're going to be using some tape to block out. So I have a long piece of tape here. Just a quick note, when you're using tape on paper, it can get really sticky and it can rip up your paper or rip up the design that you're working on. So in this instance, I put this tape on some fabric. So I laid the piece of tape down on, you can use, say you have a sheet or a pillowcase or maybe even your couch. You want to take some of the tackiness off of the tape. You want it to still be able to stick, but you don't want it to be so sticky that it rips your page. So I'm going to place the tape. You can create any design you like. If you want to write out letters or words, you can do that. I'm just going to create a design. I'm going to lay it diagonally across my picture, and I'm going to make sure that it touches the newspaper, because when you're using pastels, it's really chalky. Your tape may not stick to your page, but it will stick to the newspaper. So I'm going to get another piece of tape and continue taping off. So I'm just using my pant leg right now just to take some of the tackiness off, but then I'll tape across just like so. So I have an example of another one that I've already been working on. And I've taped down, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've taped down all around my image. So I have my design ready to go, and now I'm going to start with my paint. So I'm going to take my paint, I'm going to take a lot of paint actually. I'm going to make sure my tape is pressed down, and I'm going to go over the entire page. So I'm going to paint over the tape, I'm going to paint over my pastels. Now pastels will blend with your paint, so you want to make sure that you're adding a very thick layer of paint, because if it's a thin layer of paint, you're going to see the color of the pastel coming through. So I'm going to paint all the way through. I'm going to make sure that I have a really thick layer on top, and I'm going to make sure that my pastel colors aren't showing through. So this is a really easy process. Like I mentioned before, you don't have to use black paint. I've chosen black because it's a really dark color and it gives you really good coverage. White worked really well also, but I needed to add an additional layer because I was able to see some of my color through. But for your design, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want some of the color to shine through the top layer of paint that you're putting on. So I've done about half of it. So this is what it's going to start to look like. I know it's going to look kind of messy, but that's okay. You're going to want to paint your entire page. And I'm going to put this aside to dry so I can show you the end result. So So this is a picture that I created earlier. So I did the same thing. I blocked in my colors with my pastels. I taped it off and I painted over with white. Now you can see there's a couple of spots here and here where the paint kind of bled through a little bit. Once that dries, if you want to, you can go back over it with marker or pastel, or if that's part of your design, you can leave it just like that. So you can get really creative with this. You can spell out your name, you can draw shapes, you can make shapes with the tape. You can paint over this, like maybe you have this design and then you wanted to stencil your name over this. So just use your imagination, get as creative as you like. I hope you all had a good time today. I hope you learned something new. And if you're interested in learning more fun crafts and projects, please feel free to visit the Arcadia Public Library and check out some of the awesome books that we have. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Funology. We'll see you next time. Bye guys.